As stated before, Brandt is a nation of both future and past. The technology they have is high and above the technology of the other nations, and they are far separated from the others, as most of their nation is not on the planet of Cray, but rather its namesake, Brandt, the once wandering planet. That is the future side, but what about the past? For that I must remind you of the epitaph of Messiah. Before her death, Messiah spoke to many people and left them a message. Few remember it, but the best documented accounts are held on the planet Brandt in the hands of the authority of Brandt. Brandt specializes in being proactive, setting up various products, buildings, and other non-sentient objects in place and generating a strategy around them. Well, I'm not sure how this translates to your world. This identity is so prevalent that there must be some way to see this ordered strategy the nation is known for. Be it massive robotic arenas, huge space stations and factories, entire airships, or astral bodies like meteors, there's always something that is built for those of Brandt. Now, something important of note is that not all that are part of Brandt necessarily serve the nation or its people. In fact, on many occasions they are, shall we say, antagonistic. One example of this I've hinted at a few times before, but I will finally have the opportunity to speak of the alien race, the Gravidian. In fact, they are the most recent, debatably, aliens to our planet. An unknown time ago, they arrived on our fair planet, but they messed up. They arrived too close to Dragon Empire and too close to the ice. This caused Dragon Empire to banish them into a long slumber. However, as the fires of Nirvana warmed our planet, the ice began to melt, and the Gravidian awoke, sending scouts to learn of our world. I haven't had the chance to study them in detail, but based on their actions, I believe they thought our world to be uninhabited and sought to transform our world into some form of utopia. There is one thing that I do know for sure. While many of the Gravidians seem willing to take up arms and take the lives of our people and claim our world, the king, Nordlinger, has on many occasions used diplomacy rather than violence in order to try and live alongside us. Diplomacy is continuing to take place and is overall, shall we say, volatile at best, but many are optimistic that we should eventually have some sort of agreement with these individuals. Now, something else that I hinted at before is the Gravidian have an innate ability to manipulate gravity, a fascinating gift indeed, potentially genetic or magical, but it does not seem to show any signs of science or magic, meaning that it is still very much unknown. They very often use meteors and other large objects as weapons as opposed to direct confrontation. However, that does not mean they are weak or fragile. They have several direct combatants, such as the very large and very powerful Bakubirito. That said, they also have more interesting indirect combatants than just those wielding meteors as weapons, such as the Scout Glenn, a very small and nimble individual indeed. Again, I am unsure of how their strategies and powers translate to your world, but I have every belief that it does. While Nordlinger has successfully been leading her people down a more diplomatic route with those of Brandt, what about those who take, shall we say, more harmful approaches to interaction? Those who would rather kill, take, destroy, and overall harm. Surely Brandt has some way to handle these invaders who want to take and not join, right? There is the prison station Galacticus. It is the only land they will ever be granted. The faction of Brandt runs this prison with several sides to it, but most notable is the televised and well-documented Aurora Battle Princesses, led by the Seraph, the Angel of Justice, Seraph Snow. Having joined the academy at a young age, she was quickly trained in the ways of justice, enforcement, and policing. It is hard to know the truth of the claims due to propaganda, so I will not go into specific claims. But there are many indications, both on the screen and behind it, that they are remarkably effective at enforcing the laws and protecting the planet from alien villains. One thing worth mentioning, the prison is placed in a powered orbit around a black hole. This means, should security be compromised, power will fail and the prisoners will be destroyed. It is truly a fascinating construction, and overall a benefit to those of us on Cray. All that said, the prison is not a final destination for most. The prison is just like any other, just on a much larger scale. Those who commit minor crimes can earn their way through payment, reformation, and many, many other means. There are several unique individuals on the station, and I do truly wonder just how many you get to see. The past of our justice system is just as fascinating as the present, so I will mention it in passing here. Not too long ago, there was a reactivation of the dimensional robos. While their pilots are long dead, the robots themselves do remain, and have been studied in depth to help aid the future of our justice system. I wonder if they are remembered as fondly on your world as they are on ours. While I have mentioned the justice system, as I'm sure you're aware, no nation is complete without both a justice system for internal problems and a military for external problems. In that theme, there is another defense system that has been put in place around our planet, the Cardinal system. This system uses several semi-autonomous drones linked to the system to defend our planet. One of the most notable of these drones, and technically the leader, is Orifist, the largest and most powerful of the drones. This system and that drone specifically were created under the inspiration, guidance, or instruction of the epithet, hard to tell which, to defend our world from unseen threats. There are several weapons used by this system, but one of the most common tools that they have is the Shadow Army, a creation of the system to fight, defend, and then vanish. They are merely temporary warriors created by the system as pawns, tools to be sacrificed to protect the system as a whole. This system has many advantages over flesh warriors, including the fact that each drone is easily able to be rebuilt and returned to service with no information or unique entities lost. In fact, with the exception of Orifist, which, based on my study, is kind of the whole heart of the system, there are many duplicate drones in service at any given time. All that to be said, our world is often darkened by their actions due to the nature of Shadow Army and its function. At its peak darkness, we call it the Abyssal Dark Night. I hope the intensity of the Cardinal systems are felt even on your world, as no one here can mistake the actions of the system for anything other than actions of the system. The shadows cast are unnatural and horrifying, not just because the system is powerful, but because it usually means hell has come and descended, and the system has declared that they will use a hammer, not a scalpel. In other words, run. When the mask was placed on the system and corrupted it, a mess was created, more than any of us would like to admit, and that is an event I can cover in more detail at a later date. While there are many, many more that I wish to cover, I do not believe I have too much time left, and it would be foolish of me not to mention the Blitz Corporation. To speak of the most important mega corporation without talking about its CEO would be even worse. To introduce the kind of man Velstra is, there are two events I must talk about. Firstly, this man struck several poses in a full spacesuit in the middle of combat. I do not know if you have space travel, but if you do, I am sure you are very aware of just how difficult moving in a spacesuit is. If not, imagine every part of your body being 3 or 4 times thicker, weighing twice or 3 times as much, and having a much lower field of vision. The second involves Velstra standing on the bridge of his carrier after winning a competition, looking to the Mistress of Seals and Despair herself, Bavsagra, and asking if his victory means he can do whatever he wishes. When she says yes in a manner of speaking, he fired a space laser at himself, teleporting himself to a secret station without telling anyone that that's what he was doing. This caused many of his staff to freak out as they had no idea what was going on. An egomaniac with the largest corporation Cray has ever seen at his fingers is all you really need to know to understand both of these entities intimately. The products made by the Blitz Corporation are many, and very, very large. This includes various gunships and spacecraft, but also they do create some more subtle creations like the Kennel Eingarten. Well, I call it subtle, but it is still fully weaponized. There are also stations and more utility weapons platforms like Lubutzel. In fact, Lubutzel played host to one of the many fated clashes on its bridge, in the form of a game. This was the carrier that I mentioned earlier, by the way. Blitz also creates several gaming technology and many other things. It is hard to go to any location without interacting with at least one of their many products. It appears that my contact on your world is suffering from some various weaknesses and other difficulties, so I will leave it here. However, I have talked about everything I planned to, just not as much in depth as I would have liked. We are almost done with the nations. There is one more to cover. It's hard to consider it a nation, more an entity, but nevertheless I shall consider it as such, for its impact on our world has been numerous and ever important. That said, once that is done, if there is anything that you wish me to cover in more detail, feel free to inform my contact on your world, as I'm sure he will have some method of informing me of where we wish to go next. Thank you all, and I will see you all in our next ritual.